Welcome back. Save Our Beach Association is taking initiative to prevent erosion and restore dunes with Christmas trees.
I really love this. So after the holidays, they put out a call to action for families to donate Christmas trees this weekend, and the trees are going to be placed along Surfside Beach with the help of volunteers.
2 weeks ago, this tree stood in a living room, wrapped in lights and memories. This morning, it's heading for the ocean. Not as trash, but as a weapon. Every year in America, around 25 to 30 million real Christmas trees are sold. And when the last ornament comes down, most of them end up at the curb, waiting for the landfill. But along the Texas Gulf Coast, some of those trees get drafted into battle. They're carried to eroding beaches and staked into the sand, where they'll fight one of the most relentless enemies in America, coastal erosion. In some places, they'll help rebuild entire stretches of shoreline. In others, they'll stand guard over the nesting grounds of an endangered species. This is the story of how your Christmas tree could become a soldier for the coast. Texas isn't just losing beaches, it's losing land, permanently. The process is called coastal erosion. In simple terms, the shoreline is being eaten away by waves, tides, and currents. The water pulls sand and sediment back into the Gulf, slowly reshaping the coast. But sometimes it's not slow at all. When hurricanes hit, a stretch of land that took decades to form can vanish in a single day. And Texas gets hurricanes often. But nature isn't the only culprit. We've given the ocean a helping hand in tearing our own coast apart. Here's the thing. Rivers naturally bring sand and silt to the coast, building up the shoreline over time. But Texas has built more than 7,200 dams, more than any other state in the country. You'll find them on the Trinity, the Colorado, the San Antonio, and the Brazos. Each one traps sediment that would otherwise replenish the beaches. Without that steady supply, the shoreline starves. Now add the pounding waves of the Gulf, and you get a crisis. According to the Texas General Land Office, about 64% of the state's coastline is actively eroding. That's significantly worse than the national average of roughly 40% for coastal states. On average, 6 feet of Texas shoreline disappear every year. But averages hide the real disaster. Some sandy beaches lose nearly 30 feet annually. In Matagorda, a 38-mile-long barrier island meant to protect the mainland, storms and northeast winds have shaved away up to 46 feet in a single year. And then there's Galveston Island, a shield for Houston and its massive petrochemical industry. Every hurricane takes a bite. Every bite costs millions. The Gulf isn't waiting, and neither can Texas. When the land goes, so does the life built on it.
My grandfather built this house in 1962. The beach used to be 300 feet out. Now I've got waves under my porch at high tide. Insurance won't cover it anymore. No one will buy it. We're just waiting.
Stories like this are common along the Texas coast. Houses, restaurants, hotels, abandoned or destroyed. Roads and utilities washed away. Port terminals forced to relocate. Property losses run into hundreds of millions of dollars every year. In Galveston County alone, coastal erosion threatens an estimated $3.8 billion in property value. And it's not just people who pay the price. Sand dunes, nature's own seawalls, are disappearing. These mounds of sand protect both human buildings and fragile ecosystems. When they vanish, storm surges push saltwater inland, poisoning freshwater wetlands and killing trees and native plants that took decades to grow. The choice facing coastal communities is stark. Spend tens of millions of dollars a year building artificial defenses, or find a cheaper, natural way to fight back. This is where the humble Christmas tree joins the fight. In 1985, volunteers in Surfside Beach noticed something. Every January, thousands of real Christmas trees sat rotting in landfills across Texas. At the same time, the shoreline kept disappearing. What if those discarded trees could slow the waves? What if they could help rebuild what the ocean was taking? The idea was elegantly simple. A dune, the sand barrier that shields the coast, only needs 3 things to form: plenty of sand, consistent wind, and an obstacle. That obstacle can be a rock, a clump of sea oats, or a row of Christmas trees staked into the beach. When wind pushes sand across the shoreline, it hits the tree branches, loses momentum, and drops. The sand piles up. Over weeks and months, the mound grows. Eventually, it becomes a dune. The trees themselves become part of the structure. As they decompose, they release organic matter into the sand, creating a richer foundation for native dune vegetation like sea oats and beach morning glory. And plant roots are the best glue a dune can have. They bind the sand together, making the dune resistant to wind and waves.
It's not a silver bullet, but we've measured dune growth of 2 to 3 feet in a single season at some of our deployment sites. For a program that costs almost nothing to run, that's remarkable.
Today, Christmas tree recycling programs operate in at least 15 Texas coastal communities, from Surfside Beach to South Padre Island. The largest programs collect between 2,000 and 5,000 trees each January. Combined, these efforts have helped restore or reinforce over 40 miles of dune systems along the Texas coast. But the numbers only tell part of the story. In some places, those trees are doing more than saving sand. They're saving lives. On South Padre Island, saving dunes isn't just about protecting property. It's about protecting a species on the edge of extinction. Meet the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle. Experts call it the rarest and most endangered sea turtle in the world. At its lowest point in the 1980s, fewer than 300 nesting females remained. These turtles are picky about where they lay their eggs. They need soft, elevated sand dunes, out of reach from predators, high tides, and human foot traffic. Without healthy dunes, their nests are exposed. Eggs are stolen by coyotes, crushed by beachgoers, or washed away by storm surges. Every lost nest pushes the species closer to the edge. That's why Sea Turtle Inc., the Rescue and Rehabilitation Center on South Padre Island, runs an annual Christmas tree drive. From December 26th through January 4th, residents bring in their natural trees, stripped of all decorations, lights, and tinsel. Volunteers then transport the trees to the most fragile sections of the island's dunes and stake them into place.
People love this program. Families come out with their kids to help place the trees. It's a way of giving back. Your tree spent a month bringing joy to your home, and now it spends years protecting sea turtle nests. That connection matters.
By spring, many of the trees are half buried under new sand. And when the female Kemp's Ridleys return between April and July to lay their eggs, they find the elevated, protected nesting habitat they need. Since conservation efforts began, the Kemp's Ridley population has slowly recovered. In recent years, over 10,000 nests have been recorded annually along the Gulf Coast, a hopeful sign, though the species remains critically endangered. Those Christmas trees standing guard in the dunes, they're part of that recovery. Of course, Christmas trees can't do everything. Galveston knows what it's like to face the Gulf without protection. In 1900, the deadliest natural disaster in American history struck the island, a hurricane that killed more than 6,000 people and flattened the city. The survivors responded by building the Galveston Seawall, a massive concrete barrier that still stands today. Over the decades, it grew to over 10 miles long, shielding the island from countless storms. But even concrete has limits. In 2008, Hurricane Ike battered Galveston, causing over $30 billion in damage across Texas. The seawall held, but the storm surge flooded areas beyond its reach, proving that bigger threats were coming. Today, engineers are debating a proposed megaproject called the Ike Dike, a $30 billion system of storm gates, reinforced dunes, and levees designed to protect the entire Galveston Bay region. It could take 2 decades to build, and critics worry about environmental impacts on marine ecosystems. But while politicians debate billion-dollar solutions, volunteers are already fighting back with something simpler. The Christmas tree programs won't stop a Category 4 hurricane. They won't protect Houston's shipping channel or the refineries along the bay. But they do something equally important. They rebuild the natural defenses that make coastlines resilient in the first place. Dunes absorb wave energy. They block storm surge. They provide habitat for wildlife. And unlike concrete walls, they can grow, adapt, and repair themselves. Sometimes, the best weapon is the one nature already designed. In the end, it all comes back to the shoreline. From multi-billion-dollar seawalls to a line of discarded Christmas trees tied down by volunteers, the fight is the same. Keep the Gulf of Mexico where it belongs. Because every dune saved is one more shield against the storms, one more safe nest for a sea turtle, one more home that doesn't have to be abandoned. The trees that lit up living rooms across Texas in December are standing guard in January. And by next Christmas, many of them will be buried beneath new dunes, invisible, but still fighting. So what can you do? If you live along the Texas Gulf Coast, don't throw your Christmas tree in the trash. Check with your local Parks Department or Coastal Conservation Group. Many run collection drives through the first week of January. Sea Turtle Incorporated accepts trees on South Padre Island. Surfside Beach, Galveston, and over a dozen other communities have similar programs. And if you don't live near the coast, look for dune restoration programs in your area. Or support organizations like Sea Turtle Incorporated that are doing this work year-round. That tree in your living room isn't done yet. It still has one more season of service left.